Hey everyone, so I don't know how new this is to you guys, but I have recently been introduced to the weird world of Matt Walsh. Now, not the actor Matt Walsh, because when I was googling, he came up a bit and it kind of confused me at first, but the conservative Christian blogger Matt Walsh. I'd never actually heard of him before last week, and I stumbled across, I think it was like a tweet about him or something, and I clicked on one of his articles, and then it felt like I was just tumbling down a rabbit hole, and I read more and more of his stuff, and I was more and more confused and concerned, and was just like, is this guy for real? Sadly, I think he might be, and if not, then there's still definitely people out there who think like him, and that's a terrifying thing, and there's still people who take him seriously, and that's also a terrifying thing. And the article that we're going to be looking at today, or rather little blog post, opinion piece, whatever you want to call it, it's a bit like, remember the other week when I looked at the SJW dating checklists and the reasons to date in SJW, that sort of stuff? He is like that, but to the other extreme. So you guys probably know I'm pretty like in the middle with everything. I'm all like, you know, equality for everyone, but let's not get too carried away with like positive discrimination and stuff. You know that, right? Which is why I think it's perfectly okay to criticize the radicals at both ends. But that's just my opinion. Let's get into this article and we can see what you think at the end of it as well. So the particular post we are going to be looking at today is titled, "The Most Effective Way to Destroy Your Husband, Ruin Your Marriage, and Encourage Infidelity." Now, as you guys know, I'm in a pretty long-term relationship. I live with my boyfriend. You know, we're not married, but I guess for the purposes of relating to this article, you could say that we might as well be. You know, we live together, we share finances, we share everything. So yeah, obviously as a woman, I definitely want to destroy my husband. I want to ruin my not quite yet marriage, and I definitely want to encourage infidelity, so I'm so up for reading this, you know? And what is actually kind of scary is that this article has nearly 800,000 views. Oh, I just hope there's not that many people who agree with him. He opens by saying there is more than one way to cheat on your spouse, or should I say, cheat your spouse. Which I think is weird because to me they are very different things, but he likes to equate them to being completely equal throughout this article, you know. And it seems that many husbands are being cheated by their wives in a way that is no less damaging and no more justified than being cheated on. Sure. This form of cheating is all the more common because our culture tells women that men aren't owed anything in the first place. You can't cheat them out of something you were never supposed to give them after all. I don't know about him, but I don't think it's like that here in the UK. I mean, okay, so he is kind of talking about, like, American culture in general. But this idea that men aren't owed anything in the first place. Yes, there might be a handful of radical feminists who believe that way, but I don't think that's the case for all women. And I don't think that's the case for kind of mainstream media in general. I don't think this is a message that the mainstream is sending. Yes, a handful of extreme feminists might be, but don't tar all women with that brush just because you've seen a few spouting that. He goes on to write, but a husband is owed something, and his wife is obliged to provide it. He is not only owed it, he needs it. That is respect. At this point I kind of just want to scream shut the hell up. No one is owed respect for just being a person, or being a man, or being married. And no wife is just obliged to respect someone because they're your husband. No, screw that. Respect is something that is earned on both sides. Actually, I don't care who you are, I don't care what your relationship is to a person, you don't just automatically get respect. You earn it. I don't care if it's like a mother and child, I don't care if it's brother and sister, husband, wife, friend and friend, employer and employee. To me, respect is earned, and I'm not going to respect someone who has done nothing to earn it. I also find it, like, pretty horrific how he makes these roles for husbands and these roles for wives, and they're very distinct, very separate, which is a pretty common theme amongst Christians like Matt Walsh here. It's, you know, even promoted in the Bible, this idea that men and women have very different and distinct roles in the relationship. And I'm like, screw that, no. When it comes to things like respect, you should be even there. And now I'm not saying every person in every relationship should, like, both do exactly the same thing. I'm just saying your distinct roles in a relationship shouldn't be defined by your gender, you know? A wife who belittles her husband, cuts him down, nitpicks him relentlessly, holds her affection, both physical and emotional, as a ransom, nags him endlessly, criticizes him constantly, humiliates him in public and to her friends and in front of the children, and will not allow him to take a leadership position in the home cannot be terribly surprised when he begins to withdraw. It's actually one of the few things I agree with. Those are all horrible things to do. I would also hate it if Dan was constantly belittling me and holding affection as ransom and, you know, these other things that he lists. I think most of them are pretty horrific if they're happening constantly from either partner. I agree with that. But will not allow him to take a leadership position in the home. Again, this is something I've spoken about before, and I'll keep saying it. It's a home. You don't have a leader in the home. This isn't a workplace where you have a boss and an employee. It's your home. If you're not both equal in your home, then what's the point? Right now, our family is just me and Dan. Neither one of us is the leader or in charge. The only way that it's going to change is when we get a puppy, and then clearly the puppy is going to be in charge because have you seen their faces? Can't say no to that. And if he cheats, which would be a great and indefensible evil no matter how cold and domineering his wife may be, it cannot be said that he was the first. She cheated him, she lied to him by promising to respect him and treat him like a man, only to turn around and treat him like a child. Now I agree. A woman shouldn't treat her husband or partner like a child, but the husband or partner also shouldn't treat his wife like an employee, or just any kind of subordinate for that matter. I also don't think you can equate, you know, someone who won't allow their husband to take a leadership position in the home to a person who goes out and breaks trust and promises by sleeping with several people behind their partner's back. They're not even a little bit equal. They're not even on the same level. Okay, this next bit is wonderful, right? Men have a deep desire for respect. It is truly a catastrophe that we are not raising our girls to understand and appreciate this fact. Instead, they learn often from their own mothers, from the media, from television, advertisements, academia, and so on, that men are worthless oafs who should be handled accordingly until they prove themselves worthy of better treatment. To be honest, I look at this and I just see a man who's looking for unflattering patterns where there aren't any. Look in the media, look at TV, look at films, and yeah, you'll see some examples of this, like, oaf-like father figure or husband figure or whatever. I mean, like, look at Homer in The Simpsons or Peter in Family Guy and things like that. And yes, there are examples out there. There's also really amazing men portrayed out there, both in real life and in fiction. You know, there's men who have earned respect and who people respect. There are men who do wonderful things who aren't these oaf-like figures. I think he's just looking for patterns, unflattering patterns, where there aren't any, just for the sake of complaining. My husband will be respected if he earns it, the wife declares. Let him do the chores I assign to him. Let him accomplish everything I require. Let him dance to my tune, and then perhaps I'll reward him like a circus animal with little pellets of respect. This is not the right approach. You're right, this is not the right approach. But there's also something very, very different between those two halves of that statement there. My husband will be respected if he earns it, and let him do the chores I assign to him, and so on. They are very, very different statements there. The first half is like, I respect people who earn my respect. And it also means I will be respected if I earn respect. That's what that means, and I think that's perfectly reasonable. And I think that is an excellent thing to teach young people, not just girls, but boys as well. I think that's an excellent thing to teach all people. I think that's great. And then on the other hand, you have, let him do the chores I assign to him, as though women have this, like, monopoly over the housework, and it's their responsibility to do all the chores and assign all the chores and blah, and it's like, that's not the case at all. Going on, you know, let him accomplish everything I require. Like, none of this is reasonable or normal to expect. And just going back to the housework thing, but I don't see housework as being something that is the woman's responsibility. And I don't see it as being, you know, completely disgusting if a woman says, oh, will you do so-and-so? To me, something like housework is something that you both do and you both take responsibility for, or that everyone who lives in that house should take joint responsibility for. There's nothing wrong with me saying, oh Dan, do you mind taking the bins out tonight? Or Dan saying to me, hey, do you mind putting the dishwasher on? I did it last night. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It's not assigning chores, it's just both people taking responsibility for a space they live in. There's nothing wrong with that. The rest of it, like, it just... it's insane to me, this whole, like, let him dance to my tune. Like, it's not okay for a woman to try and, like, control everything a man does, but it's also not okay for a man to control everything a woman does. So on the one hand, I'm like, he has some good points, but also he's just taking what are crappy people things to do and making them into this, like, women's problem, where, like, women are emasculating men, and women are horrible and terrible, and they're making me feel really bad about myself because, oh my god, she asked me to do the washing up. Like, it's just kind of stupid and picking up problems where there aren't any and taking things too far. This next bit, though, is where I have the real problem with Matt Walsh. He writes, a husband does not need to earn his wife's respect any more than a wife needs to earn her husband's love. Screw that. You both earn respect, you both earn love. I don't think love is this unconditional thing. I don't care whether you're talking about a partner, or family, or friends, or anyone else. I think love is dependent on things sometimes. And sometimes those conditions, you know, are very, very low and very easy to manage and so on. For example, my sister is one of my favourite people in the world, and I love her to bits, and she's amazing, she makes me laugh more than anyone else, she's one of the smartest people I know, she's brilliant. But if she turned around one day and killed Dan for no reason, then I think I would have a hard time still loving her. I don't think she'd have my respect, I don't think she'd have my love anymore. So for me, that bar of conditional love is very low, it's just a not killing my boyfriend. But that's still a condition. What I'm saying is, I don't think that love and respect are these, like, unconditional things. And I don't think it's just that wives respect their husbands and men love their wives. No, screw that. You both love and you both respect each other. It's this equal thing that makes a relationship a partnership and not just, like, you know, man and subordinate. A wife ought to respect her husband because he is her husband. Just as he ought to love and honour her because she is his wife. Your husband might deserve it when you mock him, berate him, belittle him, and nag him, but don't marry someone in order to give them what they deserve. In marriage, you give them what you've promised. Now, I don't think it's going to be a very happy relationship if you spend your time nagging each other and belittling each other. I agree with that. But I think what he's trying to say here is that, oh yeah, your husband can be an absolute douche, and even if he is, don't tell him because he's your husband. Nah, if your husband has flaws, you've just got to accept that because he's your husband, right? It's horrible if you tell him otherwise. Oh, you don't like the way he sometimes hits you when he gets angry? Don't nag him about it, he's your husband. Respect him for it. It's just how he shows he loves you, isn't it? I mean, okay, that's an extreme example, but you kind of get the point, right? No one deserves love or respect just because you signed a marriage certificate. Oh, no, actually, no, he goes back on that a little bit and says, this doesn't mean that a man has a license to be lazy, abusive, or uncaring. Precisely the opposite. He is challenged to live up to the respect his wife has for him. But if his wife parcels out her respect on a reward system, the husband will feel demoralised and empty. He will not feel at home in his home. He will not have the sense of masculine purpose and fulfilment that his family ought to afford him. So this whole, you know, if you don't respect him all the time, the man, he'll just feel demoralized and empty. This sounds like something a 13-year-old boy would say. This is like angsty teenage writing. It's like, oh my god, like my parents just don't respect me, so I just don't want to do anything around the house, you know? Like, the more they tell me not to do something, the more I want to do it, and when they tell me to do it, I don't want to do it. That's how a teenager thinks, and it just feels a little bit juvenile to me. He will not feel at home in his home. Like, you wouldn't want that, would you? I mean, okay, call me crazy here, but I think everyone deserves to feel at home in their home. So that's a terrible thing if a man doesn't feel at home in his home, but a woman is expected to feel subordinate in her home, and that's okay? Okay, he doesn't outright say that, but I'm kind of reading the implications here. After a while, he will dread coming home at night, preferring to remain at work where his contributions are appreciated and his talents are admired. Now the marriage has entered a very dangerous place. If a man feels more like a man when he's away from his wife than when he's with her, disaster is right around the corner. The marriage is already half dead. It won't take much to finish it off. Actually, again, this is kind of something I agree with him. If a person dreads coming home, that doesn't seem like a very healthy relationship, you know? But I kind of think that's something that the couple needs to work on, not just the woman needs to change. Dan actually told me this weekend that he works with this man who he always sees like working late in the office, and sometimes they'll be like, oh, are you coming out for drinks? Or, oh mate, I'm leaving, you know, you come in as well. And this guy will be like, oh no, I'm not allowed to go out, or oh no, I think I'll just stay here a bit longer. Because he's trying to avoid going home, and his wife or girlfriend or whatever doesn't like him going out with the guys and stuff like that. And yeah, that guy seems unhappy. And Dan was saying how kind of happy and lucky he feels, because Dan's been working crazy hours over Christmas and this January and stuff like that, because he's got a lot of projects on at the minute and he's busy. Like some days he was working 12-hour days. It was pretty intense for him. But he always said when he finished his work, he couldn't wait to get out that door and come home, and he kind of really appreciated that. So on the one hand, I see what Matt means here, because, you know, no one wants to be in a relationship where you don't want to be home. But it's not just a man thing. This is the kind of thing that can affect women too. And these aren't just like one person or another problems. These aren't just one gender or another problems. When you have problems in a relationship, you work through them as a couple together. It's not just the woman who needs to lighten up or whatever. It's so silly. We all seem to understand that love is supposed to be unconditional, but we struggle to see how respect must be the same. No, I've already said this, but I disagree. I don't think either are unconditional. I think it's unrealistic and naive and silly and a little bit immature to think otherwise. I wonder, how would we respond to a husband who says he is not going to love his wife because she hasn't earned it? I'd say, okay. What would we say about a man who chooses to act unlovingly towards his wife because she isn't doing a good job of keeping the house together? Or she doesn't have dinner ready when he comes home, or she isn't properly satisfying him in other ways, or she isn't doing all the things he demands on the timetable that he prefers. I'd say, mate, man up. That's not the wife's responsibility, unless, like, you and her have agreed on that beforehand, like, in a specific relationship. Like, I don't know, I think he's being stupid here. Even if it were true that the wife is slacking in her responsibilities, we would consider the man to be a monster for holding that over her head or using it as an excuse to degrade and demean her. Of course we would, but you'd also do it the other way around as well. If a wife came home and was like, why isn't dinner on the table? I'm not going to love you till you put dinner on the table. That would be a horrible bitch move. If a guy came home and said, why isn't dinner on the table? I'm not going to love you till you put it on the table. That's also a bitch move. This is what I'm saying. It's not gender specific. These are horrible things that people do. And I think just kind of like assigning gender roles to these problems is just stupid. So why do we accept this approach from women? We don't. And if you do, that's more of a problem with you. Why is it considered appropriate for a woman to order her husband around but not the reverse? It's not. Me and Dan would never order each other around. Yeah, sometimes one of us will ask the other to do something, like I say, you know, whether it's like, hey, will you take the bins down? Hey, I'm gonna clean the windows, will you hoover the floor? You know, something like that. Or, hey, will you help me put the bed sheets on? That kind of thing. But it's never demanding. That's not normal in a healthy, happy relationship. Like, on either side. Why is it normal in our culture for a woman to assign a list of chores to her husband? It's not. And if it is, sort your life out. And then it's just more about, you know, oh, why is it acceptable for this? Why is it acceptable for this? And it's like, no, none of those things should be acceptable, regardless of which gender is doing it to the other. And then he goes on and says, I am blessed to have married a woman who operates differently. Which I think translates to, oh mate, I'm so lucky, I've got this bitch I can just walk all over, tell her what to do, she's always got my dinner ready, I just have to sit back and be like, but honey, I love you. I think that's what he's saying here. She respects me without condition, even when I have not earned it. So you're dating a doormat? Cool. I think she's the one who needs a little bit of self-respect if she's acting like this, but okay. I have grown as a man, a husband, and a father because my wife treated me as the leader in the home long before I had any idea what it meant to lead or how to do it. Well, you know what, if this marriage works for you and her, great. If you're happy, great. But don't try to force this crap on everyone, please. Sadly, the average man in America is not always given this advantage. He enters marriage and finds himself immediately in a hole. He must prove his worth if he wants to be treated like he has any. A wife paints a line on the floor and expects him to walk it perfectly, but he will inevitably stumble, as all men and women do. And his wife will chastise him and use his mistakes as blackmail against him. A man in this situation is called nonetheless to endure, to fight for his family and never be unfaithful to his wife or leave her. But if he does wander, it should be noted that he is not the only traitor in the marriage. She betrayed him. She promised him a wife and instead gave him a stepmother. The two have now betrayed each other, each in their own way. There are two sides to every story, as they say. I think this is the side that is not often told. Every day in America, men are being nagged by their wives. Men are being asked to be equal to their wives. They're being asked to earn the respect they think they're already due. It's a disgrace. It's disgusting. But you can help. Call the number on screen right now and you can help save a husband in need. If you want to adopt a husband, if you want to respect him unconditionally, no matter how many times he's rude to you or mean to you, or doesn't do the washing up, no matter how much he expects you to do everything around the house and never does anything for himself, if you think you can respect a husband like this, call now and adopt one. Seriously, like, this ending is so over-dramatic and stupid and ridiculous, and I think it just misses the point of relationships. Like, a man like this doesn't see a relationship as a partnership, as something fun. He sees it as all duty and roles, and women do this, and men do this, and meh. And that's why I think a lot of people like this are so intolerant of same-sex partnerships, because they just can't wrap their little heads around it. The fact that two people can be happy together without having roles assigned to them by the Bible of this person respects this person, and this person loves this person, and it doesn't go the other way because something gender. It's just, it's strange to me and it's weird to me, and this is not the kind of relationship I'd want, and I'm pretty sure it's not the kind of relationship Dan wants either. And that's what I think people like Matt Walsh here don't get. And that kind of makes me pity him a bit, because he just seems so full of, like, anger and hatred over problems that aren't really there. And if they are, they're clearly not affecting him because, you know, he reckons he has this perfect doormat wife. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this blog post and just Matt Walsh in general. I'm a little bit surprised I've not come across him before this last week, but now that I have, I am in shock and surprise, and I think maybe we could look at a few more of his blog posts in the future. He is a Christian, like a conservative Christian, so he does talk about kind of like God and religious stuff a little bit more in a few of his posts, but just these kind of like general lifestyle relationship posts I find quite interesting as well, so I think these would be a good one to talk about in the future. So let me know if you do want to see more of this. Let me know your thoughts, Thank you so much for watching, I really, really do appreciate you. I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much everyone supporting me on Patreon this month. I can't believe the amount of support, it's amazing. Especially thank you goes to Gambit Anushofa, Mark Garner, Christian Berg, Religion is BS, Matthew Minemart, Jaylee Moore, Sir Michael Moore, Lockie Scott and Jaden Shepherd. And a huge thank you to all of them and everyone else who's here on the end screen and down in the description below.